Talk and rock radio, where friends meet at the intersection of life, inspiration, and music. Here's your host, Rick Kern.
Welcome, everyone, to Talk and Rock Radio. You know, when I think back to El Paso's early years of recording studios, several come to mind, like Steve Krosno and Bobby Fuller. There was one, however, where several of the El Paso local bands cut their teeth and their first records. One of El Paso's recording pioneers and border legend is with us today. Welcome from Birmingham, Alabama, Bill Taylor. How you doing, buddy?
Hey, thank you. I'd like to say everything I say today also includes my best friend, Kenny Smith. We did this all together.
You bet, man. And he was a great one. You know, in 1961, it all began with three guys, Bill Taylor, Glenn McCain, and Bob Crockett, and they were called the Troubadours. Tell us a little bit about your folk trio, Bill.
Well, the Troubadours came down. Glenn McCain was contacted and asked to do something for the beauty contest at Texas Western College. And in 2 days, we threw together a trio and practiced our songs and went and did it on the second night. And we went over so good that they asked us to represent them, Texas Western, in the all-college contest down in Brownswood, Howard Payne University. And we went down there and won second place there. And we spent that whole year just being a college trio.
And were you doing cover songs, or were you doing some of your own stuff then, Bill?
No, at that time we were doing mostly Kingston Trio, and I think they were hot at the time. We did the Sun Queen's Prom. We did fraternities and things like that throughout the college year. So we were just, we also played the Don Quixote's Coffee Shop, opened up for several name groups there. Yeah, Joan Baez, we opened up for Joan Baez and things like that. So we had a big year of doing a lot of things.
You know, back in those days, you mentioned a coffee shop, but, you know, back in those days, because my wife, I know she participated, she was playing guitar and had some friends like Dean Keller, different people that played folk guitar here in town. And they went to a place called, it seemed like the Cellar. I think it was called the Cellar. I think that might have been at one of the churches. And I know you all played at Trinity United Methodist Church also, didn't you?
Right, yeah, we played several churches. But like I said, Don Quixote's Coffee Shop was kind of the end thing for us.
In 62, you kind of graduated from a folk trio to a more or less kind of a folk rock band. That's when the Sherwoods were born, and you had your bandmate and future business partner, Kenny Smith, that was part of that group. And it became Bill Taylor and the Sherwoods. Talk about that a little bit.
Well, actually, I have a funny story about that. The Troubadours, the Sherwoods were already functioning, but they were pretty much of a instrumental group. And one night I was working the charcoal. Bobby Maddox came in, who was the drummer, and he said, "Are you still singing with the trio?" And I said, "No, they went off to they went to Texas Tech, and so I'm not singing anymore." And he said, "Well, you want to join my rock group?" And I said, "Well, gee, that would be great." So he said, "Well, we're playing next Friday night." So it was Halloween night over at Eastwood High School. I showed up. When I got there was this one guy on the stage kind of putting up his amp and stuff. And I walked up on the stage and he looked at me like, "Who are you?" And I said, "Well, I came to sing with the group." And he said, "What?" So it thought that Bobby forgot to tell the group that. So we just kind of huffed a few and said, "Well, you know, Buddy Holly played this." But the leader of the group was Kenny Smith, and he had no idea who I was or why I was on stage with him.
Well, it obviously worked.
Yeah, it worked really well.
The group that was together for a couple of years, and and you did a song called "You Hold My Letters, Not Me." Now that one was written by you, right? And I think you recorded it at Bobby Fuller's Eastwood studio, right?
That's right. We recorded with Bobby Fuller then. We did several records out there for him.
Here 1,000 miles away, when I let you cry, though I believe in you, I want you by my side. 'Cause I'm jealous of the letters I write, as strangers that may be. 'Cause I know that you hold it in tight, you hold my letters, not me. That ain't the way it should be. You hold my letters, not me. That ain't the way it should be. I know you're true to me, that's why I gave you my ring. But though you're true to me, I'm jealous of one thing, yeah. I'm jealous of the letters I write, as strangers that may be. 'Cause I know that you hold it in tight, you're holding my letters, not me. That ain't the way it should be. You hold my letters, not me. That ain't the way it should be.
You know, a lot of the El Paso bands did recordings in that studio, and it put a lot of bands on the map.
Yeah, definitely so. I think he was about the first one that was really open for people to come in and record with him. He even sang up background on our first record. We didn't have any background record. He said, "You guys need some background." He says, "It goes like this." So he taught us background real quick, and we put background on the record. And they did really pretty good in El Paso, Texas. It went. I sent you the little KELP survey, and the reason I sent that survey to you was the survey's date was the date that President Kennedy was assassinated. And we I think we were number 13 on the charts on that date, but I kept that particular one because of the date of it. So the Sherwoods were together for about 2 years or so. Then we kind of broke up, and Kenny and I went out to Hollywood, California and around, and I went off to Vietnam. And when I came back, I said, "I want to be a country singer." And Kenny said, "Okay." So I was a country singer for about 15 minutes, and we wrote a couple of songs and recorded our first record in Kenny's basement. And incidentally, Kenny's father got kicked out of his lease because of the noise we were making downstairs. So our first studio was in Kenny's basement, and our first record was Eddie Taylor, My Country. And then after that, I thought, well, maybe not. So we went back to rock and rolling.
I think in 1970, you guys built your new studio in the Upper Valley, right?
That's true. And that was kind of an amazing story. It's a story of entrepreneurship. This studio it was a magical thing. We decided we were going to build our own studio, and we knew absolutely nothing about building the studio, but we took off building it. We had very little money to put into it, but we started off with saying, well, we need acoustical tile. And we went out and priced it. It was about $300 for acoustical tile, and we said, "Oh, we can't afford that." The next day, I'm driving through Texas Western. It was in the summertime, and there's a huge pile of acoustical tile out on the lawn, and they were refurbishing the Student Union building and was tearing out all the tile and throwing it down. So I got down and I said, I called a guy. I said, "Is your foreman around?" And he said, "Yeah, that guy was there." And I said, "Hey, could I have some of this tile?" And he said, "You can have as much of it as you want. You just got to get rid of it before the weekend because we're hauling it on Sunday morning." So Kenny and I made 3 trips in a station wagon, got all of our tile for no cost.
There you go. Well, that was meant to happen.
Well, that was step one. Yeah, it was meant to happen. Step two was we were looking for recording equipment, which we couldn't afford to buy professional stuff. And we went down to Howell Electronics, and all the stuff that we wanted was up in the thousands. And so I said, can we speak to the owner? And Mr. Howell came down, and I said, do you have any used equipment, you know? And he said, yeah. I said, come on in the back. And so we go back in the storeroom, and it turns out a radio station had traded in their old 3-track recorder to get a new 4-track recorder. So he said, you can have this. And I said, hey, here's the deal. We're going to make commercials and record bands and stuff like that. How's about letting us take this equipment, and when we make the money, we'll pay you for it. And he said, yeah, take it. Here, take this this 8-track mixer along with it. Here's a couple of mic stands. And he just gave us all of our equipment. And there we were.
Wow.
That cost us nothing. Now,
wow, that's cool, man. That is.
Here's the best one that'll blow your mind. So we have all this equipment sitting in one room. We have the acoustical tile in the other. And Kenny and I go to Hacienda across the road, and we're eating lunch over there, talking about how we might wire the studio up, how we're going to wire the earphones and stuff like that. And this kid comes over to us and said, sorry, I didn't mean to eavesdrop on you guys, but I heard you talking about building a studio. And the kid was from Hilo, Hawaii, 3,000 miles away. He was sent, if he went in the Army, they sent him to Fort Bliss. He just happened on that day to be on the total other town in the Upper Valley, just looking around, stopped in this restaurant to eat Mexican food, was sitting next to the table next to us, and he wanted to know if he could help us put together our studio.
Wow.
This guy was a professional engineer. So we said, yeah, you can help us, man. So now we had a professional studio. We had our 2 A7s that we had bought from Bobby Fuller. We had all the equipment. We had a guy that knew how to wire everything up for us. So,
man, the stars were lined up properly for you guys.
They were lined up. And now when we finally get it done, it's like this was using 1/2 inch tape. And we went out and priced that. The kid named Charles Finch, he shows up on a Saturday with 40 boxes of tape that the Army was using for computer stuff. It was recorded on 1/4 inch tape, and all we had to do is erase all the blips. And we had 40 boxes of tape, no charge.
Wow.
So it was almost
that is too cool.
Just given to us.
You guys worked with a lot of El Paso bands. In fact, I think during that time that Suemi Records was going on, you guys had around 15 singles or something that you did?
Yes, we had that, and of course we recorded lots of other things, commercials and things too. But we had about 15 singles, and then we decided to do one album, which we did with 3 different groups.
Let's talk about the other groups that you worked with there. I know the Sojourners were one of them, and go ahead and tell us about some of the other groups.
The Wild Ones. Our best guy was Lou Pride. Lou Pride was a soul singer. He was with a band called the Groove Merchants. I thought that was the coolest name. So we recorded a song with him called "I'm Coming Home in the Morning." And I have a little story about that later on that'll tell you about what that song turned out to be, launched him over England.
I received a call from my woman telling me she was feeling bad. She didn't know what to do. She was all alone, wanted me to come home. She was feeling sad. Let me tell you, baby, I'm coming home in the morning. Yes, I will. I'm coming home in the morning. Right on, baby. Oh, yes, I will. I wrote my baby's special deed and told her I didn't know her love was that strong. If she'd have just a little patience, baby, I was surely coming home. And I'm coming home in the morning. Oh, yes, I will. I'm coming home in the morning.
Our recording of that. And well, I'll go ahead and tell the story right now if it's okay. We found out that at that time, people would come over from England and bootleg records. They would go around and find local records they liked. They would take it back to England, make a copy of it, put the record out. If it sold, they made money. If it didn't sell, it didn't cost them a thing. And of course, we got no royalties or anything like that. But it went to number 5 on the charts over in England. So that was at least we learned that we could make a hit record. And it was stolen from us.
Okay, and then you also had you had worked with Hugh Presswood in the Medicine Band, and in fact, your girlfriend Kern Burke was in that group.
Yes, well, the thing was is we after a while with Suemi Records, we recorded ourselves. We recorded the Gorgo album, and Kenny and I got to talking. I said, you know, we're pretty much not in the mainstream of the music business. I think maybe I should move to Memphis, Tennessee, where my uncle lives, who was instrumental in getting Elvis's contract and owned a big record distributors up there. I said, let me go to Memphis, see what I got shaking, Kenny, and you stay here and record whatever you can.
Okay, so let's talk a little bit about Bill, the I Love You Gorgo album. I know that was a big project for Suemi Records here in El Paso. I think there was 3 groups that played on that album, right? We got The Truth, we had The Intruders, and we had Lodestar. You want to talk a little bit about that album?
Yeah, they were 3 groups that had come out and recorded in our studio, and we liked them, so we decided we would like to do our first album and use 3 different groups, each group being able to do 4 songs. So those were the 3 groups that we chose, Lodestar. And Lodestar went on later to become another group that we'll talk about when we went to Memphis. So we recorded 3 groups, and we also put a single out of each one of those groups off of the album. And really kind of enjoyed it. We were hawking it Texas Western into college, you know, and their bands where they were playing at nights, you know.
One of the groups that I know was being managed by Charlie Beatsworth was a group called Truth. And I know one of the songs they did is It's a Nice Day, Isn't It? And you want to talk a little bit about that song?
Oh, yeah. Kenny and I both really liked that song. We thought, this is great. So it was the first thing that made us think, let's put out a single on that. And they changed their name from Truth to Liberty. So the song was put out on the single called Liberty, a Teachworth group. And it was just a great song. We really liked it. It was one of our favorites.
It's a nice day, isn't it? The children are playing again. Can you remember when you were a child? I can. It's a nice just saw a boy with his girl. I can remember when I first coming home with a
The Intruders, of course, Rod Crosby. There was one of his songs that I really like called Patrician Melody. You want to talk a little about that song?
Right. That was also a song off the album that we turned into a single. At that time, Rod was calling himself Crosby's Closet. So we released a single of Patricia Melody, right? And it was Crosby's Closet became one of our singles that we put out. You know, all of these songs we were rushed down to KELP and see if we couldn't get them played.
When I see the stars, I see your eyes. When I hear the wind, I hear your sigh. When I feel the rain, I feel your lips. When I feel the sun, I feel your fingertips. When I see the sky with each star in its place, shining brightly above me, yes, I see your face. When I see the moon going softly above, casting moonbeams from heaven, yes, I see your love, but you're not real. You remain my dream. You don't exist.
The Lodestar Band, Bottom of the Hill. I know that was a song that we really liked too.
Right. We made a single of that and put it out. And it did pretty good for us in El Paso, Texas. So we sold a few records there.
In 1972, I know that's about the time that you decided to pull up roots and moved to Memphis. You and Karen, not only was she your girlfriend, you ended up marrying her. What year did you guys get married?
Oh, golly. I wish you hadn't asked that. That was later on. That was later on. See, the thing is, when I moved to Memphis, I had not heard the Medicine Band yet. Kenny stayed in El Paso, Texas, using our studio, Tasmit Records, to record, and he recorded some stuff on the Medicine Band.
Let you have your head till he found a friend of his sleeping in your bed. Louisiana woman, child of New Orleans, turning tricks on Bourbon Street only in your teens. Life just ain't so easy when you're on your own. Every night you sell your soul and still end up alone. You got the Mississippi running in your veins. Louisiana woman, let it flow. You got the Mississippi running in your veins. Louisiana woman, let it flow.
Yeah, and I know you had some good success with Hugh Presswood and those guys doing Louisiana Woman and several songs that they did on that album. It was a really good album. There's another group that you all recorded there that was, I think all of the groups that you recorded in Memphis when you were working at Royal and High Studios was they were all the El Paso group pretty much, weren't they? Except for I think the very last group, but they were all pretty much El Paso groups, right?
Yeah, first of all, I gotta tell with the idea Paso, Texas. Lodestar, which was on the I Love You Gorgo album, had changed their name to Swift Rain when they added a second guitar player there. Their thing was harmony guitar, and they were cool. that was the first band we brought in there. We got a deal for them and got them a record out, an album distributed by London Records out of New York. And they were our first success. And then we recorded the Medicine Band because Kenny had recorded them and sent their tape up to me.
Another group that you recorded, and I really liked this band too. Never got a chance to see them in person, but I really liked their music, and that was called Iota.
Oh, they were a great little band. Listen, it was the same thing. Kenny recorded them in El Paso, sent me their tape. I said, that's great. Send them up and come up with them, and we'll record them here in Memphis. And they showed up in a rented, a used school bus. And they lived in their school bus and came out and parked out behind a friend of mine's house for a week as we recorded all of their stuff.
See the truth of day and night, everything there will remain. And through the night sheets I hear everybody busy doing nothing, rushing here, rushing there, everybody busy doing nothing. And the midnight sheets
they were a great little band. They really were.
Yeah, the song I'm playing is called Glimpses, and it's really it's a hot song, man. I really was impressed with these guys.
Yeah, they were a good band. We got a single out on them. I think it was called R.I.P. Rest in Peace. Was a single that was put out on High Records, and so High Records picked them up as well as the Swift Train. Now they passed on Lou Pride. Excuse me, go ahead.
No, go ahead, man.
To say Lou Pride, when we brought him up, I knew they wouldn't pick up on them because they already had a whole bunch of R&B acts. So we loved Lou, so we recorded him. I knew they would refuse it, and then we could go shop him someplace else. So when Kenny came up, we recorded Lou Pride, and we just had a blast. You know, Swift Train, we must have spent a year in the studio one week. We drank a case of Boone Farm strawberry wine and just recorded from midnight till 6 o'clock in the morning every night for a week.
And those guys could put the wine away, I'm sure.
Oh, yeah.
Well, you had a good run in Memphis for about 7 years, and then, of course, during that time, you know, you're still working with Kern some, and you and Kern decided to move on to Nashville and promote Kern, and she was really getting big into the country writing. So I want to talk a little about that.
Oh, well, yeah, this was after we had our run at High Records. High Records sold them to another label called Cream Records out of California. And when Cream took over, they were very interested in Kenny and I. So we just decided it was time to move on. And at that time, I had married Karen Burke, and she became Karen Taylor. And the two of us moved to Nashville to start her country career. Hers lasted for more than 15 minutes. We had
yeah.
So she became. We did quite we did. Well, I got to tell you the story about that. First of all, I took the recordings that we had, a song that I recorded called Diamond and Rough on Karen. Took it to every major label in town, and every one of them passed them by, and she was heartbroken. And I said, Karen, when the big boys won't let you play in their game, the only thing you can do is start your own game. So I said, let's start our own label and put it out anyway. So we started a record company called Memphis Records, Karen and I.
Well, he don't dress like a downtown city dandy. He don't talk like a lawyer on a case. He can't sing a song like Kenny Rogers. And Hollywood's not looking for his face. But I don't care what he's not, 'cause he's solid like a rock. And he works hard like a man, that's enough. Well, he's not sparkling or witty, and he sure isn't pretty. But then, neither is a diamond in the rough. And my man is a diamond in the rough. Well, he don't drive in a Lincoln Continental. He don't own a mansion on a hill. He can't bring in cash like J. Paul Getty. And the way he is, well, I guess he never will. But I don't care what he ain't got, 'cause he's solid like a rock. And he works hard like a man, that's enough. Well, he's not sparkling or witty, and he sure isn't pretty. But then, neither is a diamond in the rough. Yeah, I don't care what he's not, 'cause he's solid like a rock. And he works hard like a man, that's enough. Well, he's not sparkling or witty, and he sure isn't pretty. But then, neither is a diamond in the rough. And my man is a diamond in the rough.
And our first single that everybody had turned down went top 40 on country.
I think it became number 38, right?
Right. So she hadn't started, most of our writing at that time was just writing for Karen. And I won't say I taught Karen to write, but I kind of got her into writing and said, what do you want to say? Let me help you say it. And we would write our songs together and then record them. But we had 10 nationally charted singles and a nationally charted album on Karen, on our own independent record company.
Not only did you have 10 charted, but one of them that I know of, How Can I Help You Say Goodbye, was a number 1 for Patty Loveless, right?
That's true. That was one of Karen's songs that she had written. By that time, she was really writing on her own and doing good things. And she had several number 1 records as a country songwriter. Also, Hugh Prestwood was a superstar as a writer. He wrote more charted records than I could shake a stick at. He went on to become really big country songwriter.
Yeah, he's a great writer, and in fact, I've done a show with him. We're going to be doing another one when he finishes his move back to Texas. I've got a really cool photo of you sitting behind the board with Wayne Moss at Cinderella Records. You want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, Cinderella, when we moved to Nashville, of course, we didn't have a free studio like we had in Memphis, so we had to rent a studio. And I got in contact with this guy, Wayne Moss, and we just hit it off. He was a great guy, and he owned his studio out in the back. And we recorded with him. Wayne Moss was the number 1 premier country songwriter, guitar player. Roy Orbison, Pretty Woman, things like that. Most of you have heard Wayne Moss probably dozens of times and just didn't know it was him. But he was a great guitar player. And Wayne and I just became the best of friends, and we recorded all of our Mesa records out there with him.
Is he still working? Is he still going strong, Bill?
Last I heard, he was. He's still singing and recording in his studio out back of his house.
There's a really cool video of you, and this is, of course, after you and Kern had divorced, but still remained close, dear friends to this day. And there's a really cool video of you and Karen and her current husband, Dennis. And the name of the song is "We Just Gotta Dance." Now, I think that charted at number 54, right?
Yeah, I think that was as far as it went. You know, Mesa Records, I have several Karens stories about Karen that I'd like to tell, and that was one. What I realized was people want to play in a game somewhere, and they don't know where to go. So if you just get them going in the right direction, I could talk anybody into anything. So I talked them into getting the club, you know, one night so that we could shoot our video in there. I got them to on that one there, and I was saying we didn't have any money, and every time we put out a record, we were going up against the majors that had a budget of $100,000 for a single. We had 10. So the question is how can we compete with those guys? So I read an article that about Steven Spielberg getting $100,000 off of Reese's Pieces to have E.T. eat Reese's Pieces in his movie. So they took the idea to M&M's, and M&M's turned them down, and they went to Reese's. Reese's took them up on them. So they had E.T. following the little trail of Reese's Pieces. And did you know that when the sale of their Reese's Pieces went up 30% when that movie was released? So
Wow.
I said, that's a good idea. How can we do that? So I read an article that said Coors Light was trying to get a hold of the female artist, female drinking age, So I said, we're shooting this video. I called Coors Light, and I said, look, we're shooting a video, a dance video with a bunch of beautiful girls in it. And I said, how's about we have we'll put up some Coors Light signs and stuff like that. And I said, if you'll pay for our video, we'll make sure that Coors Light gets known by it. I said, it's going to be a little, we won't mention Coors Light, but we'll just show their sign about it. So I got them to pay up all the money to shoot the video. I got a jukebox company to bring a jukebox out. We put every label on the jukebox that we just got to dance Karen Taylor good. At the first they showed, this is all the songs. So her only choice was We Just Got to Dance, and then went into the dance thing. So we got the club. We got all of our expenses paid for by Coors Light. Oh, and the Coors Light showed up with 2 kegs of Coors Light beer. So we sat there all day shooting this video, drinking Coors Light beer, and they brought boxes of T-shirts, box Coors Light mugs, and handed them out to everybody. And we just had a high old time on their buck.
Draft, please. sit here tapping our glasses, keeping time to a driving tune. Well, some of you boys in the corner, you can't seem to find your nerve. I think of the fun we'd be having if you would only say the word. 'Cause we'd all dance to the jukebox, we'd all dance to the band, until one of you sweet talking men take us by the hand. So please don't be a stranger, walk up and give a girl a chance. 'Cause if you don't ask, we don't dance, and fellas, we just got to dance. Whatever your reason for stalling, there's no reason for you to. I may not be bold, Derek, darling, but sevens have rhythm too. Well, it doesn't make any difference if you have two left feet. Just hold me where I hold you, honey, and shuffle around to the beat. 'Cause we don't dance to the jukebox, we don't dance to the band, until one of you sweet talking men take us by the hand. So please don't be a stranger, walk up and give a girl a chance. 'Cause if you don't ask, we don't dance, and fellas, we just got to dance. We don't dance to the jukebox, we don't dance to the band, until one of you sweet talking men take us by the hand. So please don't be a stranger, walk up and give a girl a chance. 'Cause if you don't ask, we don't dance, and fellas, we just got to dance. Ooh, if you don't ask, we don't dance, fellas, we just got to dance. We got to, yeah, we got to, oh, don't you know we got to dance.
Made our video.
And it was funny.
And
You're a nerd that falls down during the film. I mean, during the dancing. I love that.
that was me. That was my role. It was podcasting.
Oh, that was great. I love that video, man. It's a lot of fun. There's an a cappella song called Tenderness Plays that Karen did. It was written by Henley and Mathis, and it's really a cool little song. I don't think I've ever heard an a cappella country song that was only a minute and a half long. It's kind of cool.
I'm gonna find me a place to lay down in and let my heart rest. I think it's best that I don't see him anymore. He'll hurt me like he did before. I know for sure there's gotta be some place, somewhere to erase the thought of him. I gotta find me a soft nest I can let my heart rest in. Well, I lay down among the flowers for hours and hours, and the showers just drove me away. Hey, do you know where I can find peace of mind for a time? A kind of a tenderness place. A space that's just naturally made for me, just big enough
For my love, I gotta find me a soft nest I can let my heart rest in. Well, I lay down among the flowers for hours and hours, and the showers just drove me away. Hey, do you know where I can find peace of mind for a time? A kind of a tenderness place. A space that's just naturally made for me, just big enough. For my love, I gotta find me a soft nest I can let my heart rest in.
Talk a little about that one.
Well, everything we did was, I would look at Karen and saying, how are we going to compete with the majors? You know, so when we had our first record and it went top 40 and we got an award for being the best new producer, best new artist for country music by CSAC. And they had this show called the New Faces Show. Every year they bring in all the country jocks. They have a show that is the new artist of the year performing on there. And I said, Karen, when we go on, we've got to do something different if we're going to be noticed. Well, I came across that song and I said, let's do this song. We gathered up 8 of her singers that were doing jingles with her and went out and did the New Faces show and just blew them away because they'd never heard anything like that. And it went over so well and was so well received. I said, well, we got to put out the record on that. So 2 days later, we went recorded it in the studio, and it was, I think it was about our 4th single. It was on the United Airlines, and everybody used that thing. But it came to us because we didn't have enough money to record anything else. And we could get her 8 friends for free, you know.
Did she approach these guys that wrote that song, Henley and Mathis, to record their song, or how did that work?
No, I approached them.
I see.
I approached them and said, we'd like to do your song as on the New Face, on the showcase, so that the jocks could see her. So that's what started that.
Cool.
Another thing is, entrepreneur, let me tell you, if you don't have money, you just have to use your creativity. And so lean toward your strengths. So Karen was a jingle singer as well, and making pretty good money as jingle singer. And we were saying the second year around Christmas came up, 3 months before Christmas, and I said, you know, how can we compete with the major labels who are giving all these disc jockeys boxes of records, boxes of T-shirts, belt buckles, hats, all that sort of stuff? I said, we can't afford to send them anything like that. So I said, but you know what we could do is we could make a jingle and for them. So we wrote a song called The Sights and the Sounds of December. So let's get beyond Christmas. And we recorded it and sent it to every one of the radio stations as a freebie. And it was a beautiful thing. And it was recorded as a donut, as you know, which is the song. And then there's a little donut place where they can put in there. And I had our promotion people tell them, you can use this jingle any way you want to use it, you can. So some guys sold it to a jewelry store and made a Christmas commercial for them on the Sights and the Sounds of December. And we made lots of friends with lots of disc jockeys by sending them this thing. It would have cost them, you know, $1,500, $1,600 to record something like that for their studio, and we did it for them for free.
Very cool.
So,
any other stories you want to share about Karen?
Oh, golly, there were so many things. No, I think I really covered it. You know, like I said, our first year we did get being best new producer and artist singer. The one last thing I would like to say about this one that we did with the We Just Gotta Dance Coors Light, put us on the front page, on the cover of Billboard magazine, was a story about how Mesa Records gotten a sponsor to do their video. And I'll tell you, the whole town of Nashville started chasing after trying to get people to do theirs, and they were following us by that time. We were showing.
Oh, that's cool. Very cool. In 2009, that was the very first year that Rod Crosby and I started the Border Legends of El Paso annual concert. And I had reached out to Kern and had asked her if she would consider coming from Nashville to El Paso to be our MC for the show. And she gladly accepted to do it. And not only that, we got a package deal. We got her ex-husband to come in and play with his band, the Sherwood. And what a fun thing it was to have both of you guys here at our very first Border Legends show. It was quite a night.
Yes, it was actually Kenny had arranged to have the Sherwoods play on this Border show. I think the what was her name? Not the Troubadours, the Sojourners were there, the Sherwoods were there, Kern was there. That was after her big #1 hit. She emceed the show, and it was a full circle. It kind of brought Suemi Records and our people back into the same place at the same time, and it was a big reunion for all of us. Swift Rain was there, but they also played there.
Yeah, it was an exciting night. We had a lot of fun. I think we had probably about 300 or 400 people there at the Lancers East. It was a packed crowd, and everybody at the very end wanted to see us do it again, and so we did. We did it for another 7 years after that. What was kind of fun for that very first Border Legends show that we did, we had a jam session that we had set up out at Dalton Powell's house the next day on Sunday. We had Rod Crosby had brought in a full stage, a full PA, everything. We had all the equipment, everything there. And the bands that wanted to, they got to come back, over to Dalton's house for that afternoon. We had food and drink and just a lot of good music. And it gave us all an opportunity to play together, which was really exciting, for the musicians play with each other when they never played together before, and then some of the actual bands played the night before played too. I know, but it was a lot of fun, and I know one of the special moments was when Karen and Patty Tiscareño, she was the second chick singer that sang with Medicine Man after Karen left El Paso, and it was pretty cool because the two girls got up on stage and sang Dream together, and that was really cool.
Yeah, we had a great time. It was good food and good music, and we just really enjoyed ourselves and appreciated all the efforts that you and Rod had gone through to put all this together. It was a godsend for all of us.
Sea of heartbreak, lost love and loneliness, memories of your caress, so divine. Now I wish you were mine again, my dear. I'm on the sea of tears, sea of heartbreak. that I could die.
thank you, Bill. It was a pleasure to do that. You know, it's the whole purpose in doing the Border Legends concept was to keep the music alive and to keep the memories of the bands alive, and that's why we did it as long as we did. You know, we miss Rod tremendously. We just lost him, and he and I were already talking about doing a return of Border Legends number 9, and but you know, we'll have to do it on the next stage when we're all there together. You know, but
Yeah.
anyway, but we enjoyed doing that as long as we did it.
Yeah, you know, back all the way back to Paso recording studio, we recorded Sonny Farlow, a bunch of El Paso guys that we never did get any records going for them.
Yeah, well, El Paso's been blessed with really good talent, great musicians that, you know, some of them went on and left El Paso and did big things, and you know, we may be out here in the sticks of West Texas, but we know how to produce great musicians and great music. And well, my friend, this is kind of coming to the end of our interview. I really appreciate you coming on with me and doing this show, Bill. You know, going down memory lane a little bit and talking about the old days, and you were an important part of the El Paso, you know, music scene and everything that went on. I mean, I really appreciate you being a part of it and being a part of our talking rock program. You know, it was great to have you.
Yeah, El Paso is the birth of my music career, and I love El Paso, Texas, still do. And of course, Kenny was from El Paso, Texas, and we just hung out with El Paso as long as we could.
Yeah, well, my friend, I'm going to let you go. Thank you for being a part of the show, and we'll stay in touch. Okay?
You betcha. You take care of yourself.
You too, my friend, and we'll talk to you real soon.
All right. Bye-bye.
Take care. Bye-bye now.